Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Jeremy Corbyn says he has no regrets about attending a Passover event last night organised by a left-wing Jewish group called Jewdas. It has argued that there's no problem with anti-Semitism in Labour. Mr Corbyn said he'd spent a long time talking to young Jewish people about their experiences of racial abuse and was determined to eradicate what he called the cancer in our society of anti-Semitism. But critics say it's further proof he's failing to address the issue properly. Our political correspondent Ben Wright reports.
You regret going to that event last night?
Yeah.
Not in the slightest.
In politics, every choice matters. Decisions send a signal. And Jeremy Corbyn's choice to join a Passover event last night, organised by a left-wing Jewish group, has angered others in the broader Jewish community. But out campaigning in Swindon today, the Labour leader defended his attendance at the dinner.
I spent the evening listening to them, talking to them about their experiences in modern Britain, the issues of anti-Semitism, which is a cancer and awful in our society and has to be eradicated wherever it raises its head. I found it an interesting evening, hearing different points of view, because if you want to lead, you also have to listen.
The dinner was a public event organised by Jewdas, a left-wing, largely young, radical Jewish group critical of mainstream Jewish organisations and the actions of Israel. Last week, when the Labour leadership was engulfed in a row about anti-Semitism in the party, Jewdas said the furore was anything but an attempt to address anti-Semitism. It is the work of cynical manipulations by people whose expressed loyalty is to the Conservative Party and the right wing of the Labour Party. It is a malicious ploy to remove the leader of the opposition, the group said.
Shame on you!
Jeremy Corbyn has yet to meet the major Jewish groups who protested about anti-Semitism within Labour last week, although he has written to them asking for urgent discussions.
It looks to us, again, yet again, that his actions are not the same as his words. So we're wondering just how much reliance we can place on his word when he says to us he's going to be an ally in the fight against anti-Semitism.
Whatever Jeremy Corbyn's motivation for attending the dinner, it has done much to inflame tensions between the Labour leadership and much of the Jewish community, again, at a time when Labour's desperate to show that it's taking anti-Semitism seriously. And now the grassroots group Momentum, that has done so much to build up Jeremy Corbyn's support, says that anti-Semitism and what it calls conspiratorial thinking has to be tackled within Labour.
Well, I think we have to accept it as a collective failure. You know, we haven't dealt with this issue as fast or as transparently as possible. You know, cases have taken a great deal of time to be dealt with. Investigations take time. I think we haven't had proper training programmes.
Mr Corbyn's promise to stamp out anti-Semitism in the Labour Party will be judged by his actions on this hugely charged and sensitive issue. Ben Wright, BBC News, Westminster.
The former Labour peer Lord Sugar has told ITV News Jeremy Corbyn is just paying lip service to assurances that he is fighting anti-Semitism in the party. It comes after Mr Corbyn met with the controversial left-wing Jewish organisation last night, angering some mainstream Jewish groups. From Swindon, here's our political correspondent, Paul Brand.
Jeremy Corbyn was back from his Easter break today, but the issue was how he spent Passover.
Mr Corbyn, do you regret going to that event last night?
Not in the slightest.
He's promised to reach out to the Jewish community, but last night chose one radical section of it, celebrating the Jewish holiday with a group which denies Labour has a major problem.
I spent a long time talking to young Jewish people about their life in Britain and experiences they've had of anti-Semitism and how they see the future for our country. I think that's what political leaders should do, listen to people.
But that group has expressed scepticism about the level of anti-Semitism in the party.
This group, with a lot of people there, talked a lot about anti-Semitism in life, in general, and what we're doing about it. And I thought it was actually a very useful thing to do.
But the group he met with last night hasn't always been constructive. Jewdas has previously called Israel a steaming pile of sewage which needs to be disposed of, and claimed the row over anti-Semitism in the party is just faux outrage, all part of a malicious ploy to remove the leader of the opposition. If they'd already had enough, many MPs and Jewish people say this is just too much.
He doesn't mean it. He's just giving lip service. Obviously, his backroom cronies say to him, "Oh, look, Jeremy, you better say something about this anti-Semitism thing. You can't just sit there silent." So he said, "Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, we're not anti-Semitic. OK."
Jeremy Corbyn had actually travelled to Swindon today to win people over in the local elections. But in this railway town, the row has somewhat sent him off track.
I probably wouldn't vote for them under the current circumstances, I don't think. So.
You feel the row is that bad to honestly affect your vote?
Yeah, I think it would.
At the moment, with what I've heard, the Labour Party talking about, that doesn't encourage me to vote Labour.
Well, it's the media, isn't it? A lot of it. The media make stories out of nothing.
Today, Jewdas said it does recognise there's anti-Semitism in Labour, but for some, Jeremy Corbyn can't disguise a slip-up last night. Paul Brandt, ITV News, Swindon.
Now, the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, may have fanned the flames of the party's anti-Semitism row after attending an event organised by a left-wing Jewish group, which is critical of more mainstream Jewish organisations. Mr Corbyn's attendance at the Jewdas event to mark Passover was condemned by one MP as irresponsible and dangerous. But Jeremy Corbyn said he had no regrets about being there. Our political correspondent Michael Crick reports.
It was in the crypt of this Anglican church in Hackney last night that the Labour leader chose to spend several hours celebrating Jewish Passover. It was a traditional Seder dinner held by Jewdas, a young left-wing, sometimes satirical group that often attacks Israel. In December, for example, it tweeted that Israel is a steaming pile of sewage which needs to be properly disposed of. And last week, Jewdas criticised Labour MPs who took part in the protest attacking anti-Semitism within the Labour Party.
I really am ashamed that it's at this point.
Disgrace. It's disgraceful it's come to this.
Hence the reaction to Mr Corbyn from some Labour MPs today.
Jeremy's action was a gratuitous insult to the British Jewish community, and it comes just at a time when we're trying to resolve the crisis of confidence between the Labour Party and Britain's Jews. I think it was very regrettable.
Campaigning in Swindon this morning, Mr Corbyn had no regrets.
Not in the slightest.
Why not?
I'm sorry about your question. I went to a very interesting and very enjoyable Seder supper and spent a long time talking to young Jewish people about their life in Britain and experiences they've had of anti-Semitism and how they see the future for our country. And I thought it was actually a very useful thing to do because political leaders should listen to people. That's how we learn. Thank you very much.
Jewdas are radical and provocative and often mock aspects of Judaism. They run trips, for instance, to those sick of Israel's stranglehold on Jewish culture. And today, on last night in the crypt, claimed tongue-in-cheek the God-given right to be sole spokespeople for Anglo Jewry.
Their statement also said, "We've been campaigning against anti-Semitism on the left and the right for many years. Like way before it was popular. We have run anti-Semitism workshops," they say, "in such far-flung corners as Marseille and Bloomsbury. We have produced and distributed information on how to criticise Israel without being anti-Semitic. And, most importantly, they add, mercilessly took the P out of Ken Livingstone. You could call us trendsetters," they say.
But for Mr Corbyn and his party, the anti-Semitism charges could soon get out of hand. And even if he now meets mainstream Jewish leaders too, and not just Jewdas, the damage may be irreversible.